Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. Enjoy the ride, Texas.com. I love the website. I love the name of the company. And I love our next guest, Michael Pijanowski, here helping us in so many different ways, coaching us through so much, especially with relationships. But you are well-versed here at Meet the Elite. Say hello, Michael, and introduce yourself.
Hi, Jill. It's nice to be here again today. My name is Michael Pijanowski. I run EnjoyTheRideTexas.com. So we're a counseling service that helps awesome people find new ways to interact with their world. So I work with people who are looking for an intimate partner. I work with couples who are in conflict. I work with people who are experiencing anxiety and depression, eating disorders, smoking. Yeah. It's really kind of taking on a different, like a whole life of its own in all these different areas.
Good. Well, it's exciting to have you here. And I know today we have some topics outlined for us as always, because there's a lot of things people need help with, and you specialize in so many things. For example, compulsive eating. I have to ask that question first because this is the holidays. We do have Thanksgiving coming up, and I think all of us kind of tend to stray from our regimen, and that triggers it down from Thanksgiving to Christmas. Always I'm gaining weight. I don't know if we can call it that compulsive eating, but seasonal eating. Talk to us about part of it. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a part of it. Mm-hmm. And so in the compulsive eating, and that's something that it's been a thing for me. And then people look at me and they go, no, it can't be, because, I've never really been overweight. However, it's still a thing for me because I would use that as a means of distracting myself from some emotional upset. Mm-hmm. And that's basically what we do. And that's why there's so much, or one of probably the biggest reason there's so much obesity is because people are using food. They got the term comfort food. Well, yeah, it makes you feel good in the moment. You have some ice cream, or you go out to barbecue or whatever, and it's great. And you should enjoy all that stuff.
And then it hurts the stomach. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes. So what I, excuse me, what I work with people is to connect with their emotions. So, and this is kind of a process to become aware of what's going on inside of us. So for instance, you go to the refrigerator and you open the refrigerator and you pull out that piece of chocolate cake, you get halfway through it, and then you're like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. And then there's the judgment, and then it's like, oh, what did I do that for? So there's always some emotional underpinning to what's going on with that. So what I tell people is a lot of times we can't even get to the actual event that caused us to start going down that road to begin with. And I always say, I'm not interested in that. That'll come up later and we can deal with that. But it's kind of like when we talked about anxiety, when you feel anxious and then you feel anxious about feeling anxious about feeling anxious, you're so far removed from what you were originally anxious about that you don't have access to that. But the way I work with people is we've got an emotional charge. We realize in that moment, oh shit, I shouldn't have had that. I shouldn't be eating this cake. But it's the awareness of that's important. So you look at that and you realize, oh, I just did this again, but without the judgment. This is like really, really important that we don't beat ourselves up, because look at it as a energy pattern that we have stored within us. And so right now we've decided, we want to get rid of this. Yeah. It's a pattern that we don't need. It's not serving us. And so we are aware that I'm just doing this thing. So let's say you put the cake back, and the next time you go to the refrigerator, you pull the piece of cake out, and then you become aware before you even take that first bite. And then you put it back. And then the next time, maybe you go to the refrigerator and you open the door and you go, wait a minute, I'm not hungry. And then feel the emotion. So feel what emotions you're feeling, feel it in your body and connect with that. And this is a process that takes time. And the awareness, though, is it seems like such a little thing, like, oh, this can't possibly do anything. Because what do I do to cure this problem? And it's not about the doing. when you become aware that you're doing this, and I remember I had an event maybe 3 or 4 years ago, and I was in my apartment and I got up and I went to the refrigerator and opened the door. And I said, "What are you doing? You're not hungry." And I closed the door. And then I sat down, and then I got up a little while later and really mindlessly got up and walked to the refrigerator. I mean, I was like really not even thinking, and I wasn't thinking at all.
Yeah.
I opened the door, but as soon as I opened the door, I was aware that, what are you doing? You're not hungry. Something's bothering you. And so I did this about 6 times, and I got so mad at myself that I slapped the counter and I said, "What are you upset about?" Because that's what it's about. It's about, I'm going to the refrigerator to eat when I'm not hungry because something's eating away at me. And so this was, early in my development before I got to where I am now, of realizing how important the awareness was. And awareness played a factor then, but I'm as time goes, I kind of refine everything based on, my own experience and what works.
Yeah, as we all do, my goodness. But I ate 2 days, it was Sunday, a whole bag of potato chips, salt and vinegar. I sat down. I could not, I just thought I have a few, I'm watching TV, and I was like hypnotized. I looked down
Yes.
and I'm like, the whole bag is gone of Cape
Yes.
Cod. I was so good. But I'm also like, what did I do? And I felt so bad, but I'm like, feels so good. And then an hour or so later, my stomach was hurting. And I'm like, why did I do that? I didn't think.
Sure.
But it did feel good.
Sure. It feels good in the moment. And
right. And I really lost track. I can totally relate to what you're saying because it just happened. Like,
yes, it does just happen. And so the part that really makes it hard to change is the judgment of saying, why did I do that? And I shouldn't have done that. And I know. So now you're like some parent that's pointing their finger down at you saying, you shouldn't do that. You're bad. You're wrong. There's something wrong with you because you do this, but there's not.
There's not.
And so it's like, so
you have to.
So, you grab the bag of chips and, it's the same thing. You become aware of, I'm doing this, but what do I feel? Or what am I trying to avoid? Maybe that's another question, or maybe in some cases, like, what am I trying to avoid?
It was the one day I had home to like clean my house and organize. And I've really been putting that off for a long time.
Sure. So now it's
diversion.
It's diversion. It's like, get me in another direction.
Yeah.
But then
no, it was like self-sabotage. It is
self-sabotage, and we're really good at it. And, but there's a way out, most certainly. So yeah, I mean, it's just starting with awareness.
Yeah. All right. So what about smoking?
So smoking is
it similar?
Very much the same thing. However, with smoking, there can be the reason that you start smoking. Now, if you don't have access to that, if you don't know what that is, so maybe it was like, it's an identity thing. You're young and you want to fit in with the in crowd, and they all smoke. And I remember talking to one guy. He said he started smoking when everybody else was taking a break and going for a smoke, and he didn't smoke, and so he didn't get a break. So he decided he'd start smoking just to kind of fit in. So there's a lot of different reasons that we do it. But then it still kind of comes back to the awareness thing of, you pick up that cigarette and you become aware of, all right, this is something I don't want to do.
Yeah.
And what do I feel? Is it a piece of your identity that's tied to that?
Yeah.
So it's just trying to touch that piece. So it's very much similar in how that works. It's just getting to the bottom of why you started, and then just being aware of every time you pick one up, and what's your motivation to quit? And then there's the chemical part of it. So that's a complex thing, but I'm working with a client right now. In fact, she was nice enough to sit in on a video shoot last week. We did an interview, and so I also interviewed her and kind of talked about how this all worked for her. And for her, she had a definite event in her life that was very stressful, that was her start to smoking. But then once that event goes away, the smoking stays because the event was never properly um, worked with on an emotional level. It wasn't, she didn't allow it to pass through. So she's
Yeah.
been holding it in.
Yeah.
So same sort of thing.
Now, what about motivation like for exercising? Is that something
Oh,
you can help people with
yes.
as well? I mean, we're talking eating right, weight loss, we're talking
Yes.
quitting smoking, but
Yes.
that lack of motivation, how can you inspire and to
So,
stick with it? Mhm.
so exercise. So I'm a runner, and I've been exercising for many, many years. And I notice that there are times I just find myself lacing up my shoes and putting them on and going for a run. It's not like I think I should do this. I just do it. Okay. So we don't exercise because maybe or let me back up. So we exercise because we want our body to look better. And if our body looks better, we're going to feel good about ourselves. Okay.
Mhm.
That's backwards,
Okay.
because we're putting the outcome of I want to feel better at the end of that. So if we work with I feel great about me, and I want to exercise because I love myself, I want to take care of this wonderful body I've been given, it changes the dynamic of it, because it's no longer about I need to be better than what I am. It's just I'm going to take care of myself. This is a self-care thing. I'm going to take care of this wonderful body. And
Mhm.
so when I work with somebody like this, um, when they are thinking about like planning the exercise, I want them to look at what's the resistance to going and exercise. What's
Yeah.
the problem? I mean, sometimes you lead a really busy life. Maybe you get up really early in the morning and you just can't manage that time.
Yeah.
Well, then find another time a day. Find find a smaller slice of your day when you can make it work. You can do a higher intensity workout that's very short,
Yeah.
and you'll get benefit from it. But so part of that is making a plan, but also we have to address why are you doing it, and get that whole thing out of the way about doing it to feel good about yourself, because that's a huge trap.
Okay.
So another suggestion is in the area of self-care. Maybe you start getting regular massages to increase your range of motion, and it's because you're planning on this exercise, regime. And so what we're really doing when we do that is we schedule this massage with a goal in mind, that we're going to increase our range of motion. And so through this, we're doing this in a loving way for ourselves. And then it's starting to build that little bit of like muscle memory, if you will,
Yeah.
of I'm going to take care of me. And then imagine how you will feel after you exercise. I mean, think about it before you exercise, like exercise mentally. I mean, they actually do this, I guess, with Olympic athletes, where they have them envision themselves in the event.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of power to that. There was actually a study done where they had two groups of people. One group of people exercised with lifting a weight with their arm for a week or 2 weeks or whatever it was. Then they had another group that visualized lifting a weight for the same amount of time. And the amount of muscle gained was almost the same between the two groups. So there's a lot of power in the mind in moving it in that direction. So part of it is imagining how you're going to feel, and get in that
Mindset. Yeah. The headspace
mindset.
mindset. Hmm. And what would you say is the most important element about overcoming, one of these habits that we have that we don't want anymore?
The most important thing is to let go of the judgment of ourselves. It's so destructive to judge ourselves for these things, because we're just setting ourselves up for failure. It's like the parent, pointing its their finger down at you saying you're bad. You have to let go of that and understand that you're just on a journey. You're going to, either you're going to handle your compulsive eating, your smoking, your exercise, and you're going to be a little kinder to yourself, basically, is the point. Don't judge yourself when you slip off track, or you have some ice cream, or there's nothing intrinsically bad about that. I do all that. I mean, I'm not a big fast food guy, but every once in a while I go and have a Whataburger because they're really good. And I enjoy the heck out of it. I usually wait until my weight is a little bit lower, and I go, you know what, I got room to go, and I'm just gonna.
I can make up for it. Yeah, I do
It's
that.
like no big deal.
Okay, my guilty pleasure, I do Taco Bell, and I don't get like just 2 tacos. I get like a 10-pack, and
There
I
you
can
go.
eat the whole 10-pack. Soft tacos, no lettuce, extra cheese. Yeah, yeah. But I haven't done that in about a year, but I aspire to when I could do it again, because something I do crave, but I try to stay away from. But I'll treat myself once every 6 months, a year, maybe. But yeah,
Yeah,
I
and
know.
that's fine. But
Don't make a habit out of it, because
right. So it's the occasional.
it's the
thing
occasional.
like that,
I've
and then
learned.
you're celebrating yourself. You're just like, I'm going to do this, and I know one meal is not going to make a difference.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the 5 Cokes and the 3 donuts after that. It's just everything combined. If that's not part of your lifestyle, it's just a one-off thing, and you enjoy it, and then you feel good because you're like, you know what, I'm treating myself. I love myself. I'm worth it. I know this isn't going to stick because it's one meal.
Yeah, you're right.
Just no big deal.
Now, is there more factors really behind these types of behaviors that you want to share?
Oh yes. So we start with the emotions because that's the best place to start.
Okay.
But the other factor that starts coming into this are our beliefs. So when we have certain beliefs like I'll never lose weight, or I can't do this, or I've tried exercise, it just doesn't feel good. We've got all these beliefs floating around in our head, and they're really at a subconscious level, which makes it very difficult for us to access. Most of us think that we can just change by force of will, and it's really a nice thought, but it's really not.
Okay.
It's really not the way it is. Have you ever ballroom danced?
No, I have not.
Okay,
I've covered a competition. I'm a dancer. I used to do tap, jazz, ballet, hip hop when I was younger, and I used to teach, but never ballroom dancing. I've been to a competition though, but competition dance, but not ballroom.
Okay, so dance in general doesn't have to be couples, but dance in general. So when you start learning, let's say, a new dance, and so you are consciously thinking about, I need to do this, I need to do that, and you're in your head, and all your emotions are slowed down because they have to go through your conscious mind. As you practice, they start becoming a subconscious program in your mind, and then you're doing these moves you're not thinking, oh, I need to put my left foot here and spin and move my weight. All that stuff's automatic. You're on autopilot. The belief that it's tied in with the belief. The beliefs are very deep. They're subconscious, and so when you can affect that subconscious belief and change it over time. Like awareness is one way to do it. There's also the Psyche we talked about before, a belief change modality. I'm not in favor of using the Psyche too early. I would rather see people, and maybe this is just me, but I would rather see people do the work, emotionally connect with themselves instead of trying to take let's say the easy way, because you want what you do to be sustainable. And while changing beliefs is important, it's really important that we learn how to process our emotions so that we are moving in the right direction. So yeah, beliefs are the other component to all these things that play into it. In fact, I'm working with when it comes to beliefs, and I'm kind of working with myself on this, and I'm not ready to really roll this out, but rewriting the past to affect the present and the future. And so that's kind of an interesting little, side project that I'm working on, just to see how that plays in. And that also has to do with beliefs and changing beliefs, maybe reconceptualizing something that happened, and just to see how it kind of plays out in our lives right now.
Got it. And by the way, enjoytheridetexas.com, best form of contact. We have to keep mentioning that, new people tuning in, right?
Yes, yes.
Good. Want to make sure we're on the same page. Now, how does someone get started? Can we talk about the process of starting to work with you and contact you? How does it work?
So the best way I would recommend is, let's set up a free phone consultation. Let's talk. Let's make sure that we're on the same page, that you resonate with the work that I do, because some people do and some people don't. It's not, you have to feel comfortable with whoever you're working with. You have to feel like, yeah, I think they can lead me in a direction I want to go. Mm-hmm. That's not with everybody. And so I would recommend that we start that way. Now, the other starting point is that, maybe we have all of these habits that we talked about, and we want to get rid of those. We want to change them. And so where we start with that is we start with whatever is bubbling up right now. What is the emotion that's bubbling up at this moment, or in any moment? That's the thing to work on. So, if you think that you want to work on exercise motivation when maybe compulsive eating is a bigger deal, just kind of let life kind of, lay the roadmap out in front of you, because we all have a roadmap. It's already there. We just need to learn how to listen to it and follow it. So a great quote from Eckhart Tolle is, life will give you whatever experience is most helpful to the evolution of your consciousness. And how do you know that's the experience you need? It's because it's the experience you're having right now. So really, we're getting what we need in each moment. We just need to relax and, let that happen. So when I start working with somebody, we'll work with whatever's important in that moment. And if it's the compulsive eating, fine. If it's smoking, exercise, whatever, we're going to work with whatever bubbles up first, because when we have an upset, we want to be able to address it in that moment of upset.
What about positive affirmations? Can they be helpful?
They can be helpful, but that's a double-edged sword. So this is a law of attraction kind of a thing. So an affirmation to begin with is that we are reinforcing the thought that something is already the case.
Okay.
So it's not that I have a certain amount of money and you don't, but if you really don't believe that that's possible, then you're actually affirming the lack thereof.
Okay, that's confusing, but you're right.
So the other thing that I would say about affirmations is never, let's say you make a list of positive affirmations, and I've done this, and they do work. I've recorded myself saying them, and I listen back to them.
Yeah, like
but what I would say is really important is that you only do that when you're feeling really good. When your attitude is really high, then do it.
Okay.
If you're feeling low, then all you're feeling when you say it is the lack of, and now you're reinforcing the opposite thing that you really want.
Yeah.
And what we really want to do is move in the direction that we want to go. We don't want to move away from it. So it's, yes, they work. It's like a yes, but, they're helpful, but, don't, Yeah, but don't work it against yourself,
All right, good to know. And is there other quotes that you want to share with us today? We still have 3 minutes. Want to make sure we're getting all of our time.
All right. So I've got some from the book called The Art of Living. So events don't hurt us, but our views of them can. And don't demand or expect that events happen as you would wish them to. Accept events as they actually happen.
Okay.
The surest sign of the higher life is serenity. When considering the future, remember that all situations unfold as they do, regardless about how we feel about them. And then the last one I wrote down was self-mastery depends on self-honesty. So, really being honest with ourselves, because I see a lot of people that, I talk to a lot of people casually that feel like they don't have anything to work on, everything's good, and they think everybody else is still the problem. They're still looking outside of themselves for, what's wrong in their little world.
Yeah.
But their little world is upset because there's something upset in here. It has nothing to do with the people out there and what they do, because when somebody does something to you, that was in that moment. Well, now maybe it's 5 years down the road or 10 years down the road. They're not here anymore.
Yeah.
They're not here anymore. So the only reason you're upset is you're upsetting yourself because they're not here.
True.
So how could you blame them? You could blame them for what they did in that moment.
And then, yeah.
But then you put them in your backpack and you carry them around.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much. Well, we must go today. Would you mind sharing the best form and all forms of contact, please?
Yes, you can reach me at enjoytheridetexas.com. You can click on contacts and reach me there. That's really the best way to reach me. My phone number's in there. You can shoot me a text. We can set up a phone consultation and see if we resonate with each other.
Right.
We'll go from there.
Thank you so much, Michael
welcome.
Pijanowski. Really appreciate having you here. And thank you for enlightening us once again today. Enjoy the ride, Texas. Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.